Bill Maher called out CNN's Kaitlan Collins on the network's bias. Let's watch.
You made press because you were on Stephen Colbert's show, and he said something like, you guys at CNN just report the news straight. And the crowd burst into laughter.
CNN is the place where both sides can watch. And
I'm talking about the people on CNN. And what I know what the conservative side of America thinks, and I don't blame them. They were just gushing about how great a speech it was. And I think she did fine. I didn't think it was as good as they were making it out to be. It does look like tokenism. It's kind of like the same as The View. In a way, I feel like it's more insulting than what Trump does. And Trump says you're the enemy of the people, which is pretty bad. But she's kind of saying I don't need you. I'm not talking to you. You don't matter. You're not relevant anymore. To me, that's even worse than I hate you. It's like I don't think about you.
I don't know if it's worse than denigrating the press on a daily basis, which is what Donald Trump did.
Recently, we witnessed something that sent shockwaves through the media world. Bill Maher, a man who has spent years championing liberal causes, torched CNN anchor Kaitlan Collins live on air. It wasn't just a disagreement. It was a full-blown reckoning. Maher called out CNN's endless political games, their hypocrisy, and their shameless bias against Trump and anyone remotely aligned with conservative values. And believe me, it wasn't pretty. What started as a simple exchange quickly spiraled into a brutal takedown that left Collins scrambling for cover.
Would you continue to give Ukraine money and weapons if you're elected? What's the answer?
If I'm president, I will have that war settled in one day, 24 hours. It'll be absolutely
Do you
over.
want Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people.
Can I just follow up on that because that's a really important
Excuse me,
statement
let me
that
just
you just
follow
made
up.
there. Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying.
Maher, who once voted for Biden and openly criticized Trump, is now the one exposing the very network he once defended. Why? Because even he sees it now, the rot, the arrogance, and the obsession with controlling the narrative. But before we dive into Maher's devastating critique, let's rewind for a moment. Let's talk about why a lifelong liberal suddenly sounds more like a frustrated conservative. For years, the mainstream media, especially outlets like CNN, have built their brand around one mission: discrediting Donald Trump. Every question, every headline, every so-called analysis has been a trap designed to make him stumble. And leading that charge? Kaitlan Collins. In one viral moment, Collins tried to corner Trump during an interview about Ukraine, a setup so obvious even casual viewers could see it. She asked a question that no answer could satisfy. If Trump said he wanted Ukraine to win, he'd be accused of stoking global war. If he said Russia, he'd be labeled a traitor. Either way, CNN would have their headline. A classic gotcha moment, engineered, rehearsed, and ready to clip. But Trump isn't new to this game. He saw the setup miles away. Calmly, he deflected, saying he wanted the killing to stop no matter which side. Smart, strategic, unspinnable. And that's when Collins lost control. Instead of moving on, she doubled down. She interrupted, added commentary mid-question, and turned what was supposed to be journalism into a personal sparring match.
That environment wasn't just created by Donald Trump.
Okay, but can I say, you can't blame, and everyone wants your dad to be safe. No one wants the threats against his life to happen, but you can't blame the media for those threats. There's been no evidence. That's what drove those.
And allows people to have a platform to call someone literally Hitler every day for 9 years, it creates it.
Okay.
Whether you want to believe it or not, that's a fact.
But as you know, J.D. Vance once likened your dad to Hitler as well. He questioned if he was America's Hitler.
It wasn't about information. It was about ego. And Bill Maher saw it for what it was, a performance masquerading as integrity. That's why, when Maher called her out, it hit hard. He didn't mince words. He said what millions of Americans have been screaming for years, that CNN isn't doing journalism anymore. It's running political theater. See, the woke media complex has become addicted to outrage. They need villains. They need chaos. And Trump has been their golden ticket, their 24/7 ratings magnet. Without him, their narratives collapse. Their relevance fades, so what happens? They manufacture outrage. They twist, spin, and sensationalize every word that comes out of his mouth. And when the truth doesn't fit their script, they simply ignore it. And here's the kicker. The same journalists who accuse others of bias are the most biased of all. They sit behind sleek desks in glass studios preaching, "Democracy dies in darkness," all while manipulating viewers in broad daylight.
Was it appropriate to bury the Hunter Biden?
You're talking about the press doing that?
He's saying that's what they did, and that is what they did. They buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
And we know for a fact that that's what they did?
Of course. You don't
but
follow
I'm
this.
saying you know for a fact that that's what they did. I don't know what they did.
I know, because you only watch MSNBC.
No, that's not true.
Bill Maher, to his credit, has started calling this out, and he's doing it loudly. He's seen how CNN selectively reports the news. When a scandal hits a Republican, it's breaking news. When it hits a Democrat, suddenly it's under investigation or misunderstood. Take the Hunter Biden scandal. Years of evidence, emails, photos, bank records. Yet the mainstream media treated it like a conspiracy theory.
There was what you would have to call some sort of media suppression of Hunter Biden's computer right before the election.
Oh, no doubt.
Okay,
and the truth is, I still don't know what I think about that. And sometimes,
right.
But I mean, to actually parse everything in there and figure out just how dirty Biden Sr. is as a result of the information there.
Can I go to step two? But nothing really. It was common. It was the kind of sort of everyday graft that's sleazy, but doesn't affect the world. Probably.
Yes.
Hunter Biden sold his father's influence to get money. But Joe Biden himself would not give away our nuclear secrets to the Chinese. He's not, he has a soft spot for his son, his ne'er-do-well, stupid son.
I mean, you've heard his voicemails to his Hunter.
So, like, Dad, I'm in a little bit of a jam. Could you just meet with the Chinese guy next week? It would mean a lot to me. And Joe would do it. And then Hunter would get the money for the meeting.
Yep.
Imagine if Donald Trump Jr. had even a fraction of that baggage. CNN would be running nonstop coverage, panel after panel, dissecting every text message. But Hunter, they brushed it aside as a private family matter. And that, right there, is the hypocrisy that's breaking journalism in America. Maher knows it. So do Megyn Kelly, Ben Shapiro, and even disillusioned Democrats who can't believe what their party's media allies have turned into. Maher's takedown of Collins wasn't just about one interview. It was about the bigger disease infecting legacy media, control. CNN doesn't want to inform you. It wants to shape what you think. They'll parade one token conservative voice on their panels for balance, but only if that conservative already hates Trump. That's not balance. That's camouflage. They let them speak for 20 seconds, then spend the next 10 minutes dismantling them, all for the illusion of fairness. Bill Maher wasn't fooled. He saw through the facade and said what no one inside CNN dares to admit, that the network's impartiality is a marketing slogan, not a mission. He told Collins straight, "You're not fooling anyone. You can't hide behind your background or your state of origin and pretend that makes you objective."
You made press because you were on Stephen Colbert's show, and he said something like, you guys at CNN just report the news straight, and the crowd burst into laughter. Look, I'm on CNN now. I guess we're on it right now. I mean, they show this show the next night. I don't know how we get away with it with all the fucks, but they do. And all these dirty jokes. But I'm glad. And I'm a big rooter for CNN. But that tells you a lot, doesn't it? I mean, how do you guys think you are doing in that arena of this is a terribly divided country. We're not only politicized, a lot of people just hate the other side. And CNN, in my view, should be the place where both sides can watch. How do you think you're doing with that?
How is CNN is the place where both sides can watch. And I think, my show is evidence of that. We have lawmakers on from both parties. We'll have Elizabeth Warren on one night. We'll have Ted Cruz on.
Because here's the truth. Your zip code doesn't erase your bias. Your family's political leaning doesn't make you neutral. Your reporting does. And CNN's reporting screams partiality at every turn. Even Megyn Kelly chimed in, pointing out that Collins doesn't just appear biased. She embodies it. Her tone, her facial expressions, her interruptions, it's all theater.
I'm sorry, but she's only a star with leftists. And the fact that she has some roots in Alabama does not make her a fair and balanced reporter. I will submit to the record, her biggest sin is not that she is biased, though she is. It's that she's boring. She's extremely boring with no personality. I have a pro tip for her. Smile. Try smiling every once in a while. Try not to be, like, in your delivery, such a cold-hearted all the time, because it gives people nothing to bond to. You can be a tough interviewer and also have some warmth.
Megyn Kelly put it bluntly. If you want people to take you seriously, stop acting like you're auditioning for a resistance rally. And honestly, she's right. You can be a tough interviewer without dripping disdain. You can be sharp without being smug. But Collins and her CNN colleagues seem to think hostility equals strength. That's why Maher's criticism hit so deep, because it came from someone the left once celebrated. When a liberal icon starts echoing conservative frustrations, you know something's broken. But it's not just CNN. MSNBC, The Washington Post, and countless other outlets have fallen into the same trap, preaching objectivity while pushing narratives. They call it journalism. The audience calls it propaganda. Even Ben Shapiro, from the opposite ideological end, agreed with Maher.
Stephen Colbert had on Kaitlan Collins from CNN, obviously talking about how terrible Trump is and what a terrible job he's doing and how Kamala Harris has all the momentum and all of that sort of thing. But that's not the interesting part of the clip. The interesting part of the clip is that Stephen Colbert says, in perfect seriousness, with a straight face, that the legacy media are objective. That CNN is objective, and listen to the reaction of the crowd. Again, this is a crowd who opts into viewing The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, which means that they are all on the left.
Trump has kind of been thrown on his heels by this, and he's not really sure how to go after Vice President Harris. He knew his attack lines on President Biden. He really has struggled with how to go after someone who's 20 years younger than him, who is a different gender, a different race. It's kind of been this moment where he has not been able to coalesce around a single attack line.
I know you guys are objective over there, that you just report the news as it is. Oh, I know. CNN makes I know
that's supposed to be a laugh line?
I wasn't supposed to be, but I guess it is.
Okay, that is an incredible admission, number one, by Stephen Colbert.
His take was simple. CNN doesn't even pretend anymore. Their viewers expect bias, and they deliver it proudly. And that's the irony. CNN's audience wants the echo chamber. They don't watch for truth. They watch for validation. They want to feel righteous, superior, safe in their beliefs. And CNN? They're happy to sell that comfort. But here's where it all backfires. The public is waking up. The ratings don't lie. People are tired of being talked down to, tired of the emotional manipulation, tired of being told what to think. Bill Maher saw it coming. He warned them, if you keep digging, you'll bury yourselves. And that's exactly what's happening. The more CNN obsesses over Trump, the stronger he gets. The more they try to destroy him, the more people rally to his side. Every headline meant to wound him ends up fueling his momentum. Maher's message wasn't just criticism, it was a warning. A warning to the media that their arrogance has consequences. When you lose the people's trust, you lose everything, because journalism at its core relies on credibility. And CNN's is evaporating. They've spent years branding Trump as a villain, painting his supporters as extremists, and mocking anyone who questions their reporting. But what happens when those same viewers start questioning them? When even lifelong liberals start switching channels, looking for honesty? You get what we're seeing now, a total collapse of trust. Even the left knows it. They'll never admit it publicly, but behind closed doors, producers are panicking. Executives are scrambling to rebrand. They're trying to claw back relevance while pretending nothing's wrong. But it's too late. The damage is done. CNN's endless Trump derangement, their selective coverage, their manipulation of facts. It's all catching up to them. Maher didn't just call them out. He exposed their playbook, and the result? A reckoning. A public awakening. A shift in how Americans view the media itself. But here's where things get interesting. Because Bill Maher isn't alone anymore. A growing number of commentators, comedians, and even Hollywood figures are quietly rebelling against the mainstream narrative. They're realizing what millions of viewers already know. This isn't about left or right anymore. It's about truth versus control, journalism versus activism, reality versus performance. And CNN? They chose performance. That's why Maher's takedown matters. It wasn't partisan. It was principled. It wasn't about defending Trump. It was about defending honesty, because when even a lifelong liberal starts sounding like a conservative commentator, that's not politics. That's a sign the system is breaking. And if you think this was intense, wait until you see what happened next. when Maher confronted Collins face-to-face on her own turf. Let's just say, it didn't end well for CNN. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this kind of straight talk, where we cut through the noise and expose the real stories behind the headlines, then don't forget to hit like, tap, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next deep dive. When Bill Maher finally sat across from Kaitlan Collins, the tension in the room was palpable. You could almost feel CNN holding its breath, hoping this conversation would repair the damage, or at least soften the blow from Maher's earlier comments. But it didn't. It only made things worse. Collins walked in with her trademark confidence, polished, prepared, ready to reclaim the narrative. But Maher wasn't there for small talk. From the very first question, he made it clear. The days of pretending were over. He looked her straight in the eye and said, "You've built a career on asking tough questions. But when are you going to start asking them to your own side?" That single line silenced the studio. Collins tried to deflect, said CNN does hold Democrats accountable, that they just follow the facts. But Maher wasn't buying it. He cut right through the script. "Following the facts doesn't mean filtering them," he said. "It doesn't mean hiding stories that make your team look bad. Journalism is supposed to challenge power, not protect it." And with that, the interview turned from polite conversation into open confrontation. Maher laid out the case point by point. The buried Hunter Biden story, the endless hit pieces on Trump, the selective outrage, the moral grandstanding. He didn't need to yell. He didn't need theatrics. His calm tone made it sting even more. Collins tried to pivot, claiming that Trump's unprecedented behavior required a different kind of scrutiny. Maher wasn't impressed. "That's exactly the problem," he replied. "When journalists start believing their personal feelings justify bias, they've stopped being journalists. They've become activists." It was brutal honesty, the kind the media rarely faces from one of its own. For years, Maher has been the rare figure willing to criticize both sides. But this time he didn't just criticize, he exposed. He showed the world how the media plays its game, create villains, fuel outrage, and pretend it's all for democracy. Collins struggled to regain control. You could see her searching for footing, hoping to steer the conversation back into familiar territory. But Maher wouldn't let her off the hook. He pressed on, "If CNN wants to rebuild trust, it needs to stop acting like a campaign arm for the Democratic Party. You can't demand respect when you've stopped earning it." That's the moment it hit. Not just for Collins, but for viewers everywhere. This wasn't about Trump anymore. It wasn't even about politics. It was about accountability, something the media abandoned a long time ago. You see, the modern media landscape isn't built to inform. It's built to manipulate emotion. Rage sells, division sells, scandal sells. Truth? Not so much. Networks like CNN figured out long ago that fear and moral outrage keep people watching. And as long as Trump exists, they'll never run out of material. That's why they can't let go of him. They need him. Without the Trump threat, they have no villain, no ratings, no rallying cry. And Maher just exposed that addiction on live television. From that moment on, the conversation wasn't about who was right or wrong politically. It was about who was still being honest. And in that battle, CNN lost. Because here's the irony. For all the moral superiority the network projects, it's been caught manipulating footage, selectively editing interviews, and platforming misinformation, all while accusing others of doing the same. They've blurred the line between journalism and activism to the point where even insiders can't tell the difference anymore. And when someone like Maher dares to point it out, they act like he's betrayed them. But he hasn't betrayed journalism. He's trying to save it. That's the uncomfortable truth. The same man who used to sit comfortably in the liberal camp is now the loudest voice warning that his own side's media has lost its soul, and he's not alone. Other prominent voices, Megyn Kelly, Joe Rogan, Glenn Greenwald, all echo the same message. The media's credibility crisis is self-inflicted. They built their empire on trust, and then they sold it for power. Take Megyn Kelly's comments after the Maher interview. She didn't hold back. She said, "Kaitlan Collins isn't just a biased reporter. She's a symptom of a culture that rewards arrogance over accuracy." That's the key point. It's not about one anchor or one network. It's about a media culture that thrives on moral posturing. Not truth-seeking. Even Ben Shapiro, who often clashes ideologically with Maher, praised him for calling a spade a spade. He said, "When even Bill Maher is calling out CNN, it means the mask has slipped. They can't hide behind the pretense of neutrality anymore." And he's right. The mask is gone, because here's what happened after that confrontation. CNN didn't reflect or self-correct. They doubled down. Instead of addressing the criticism, they quietly tried to discredit Maher. Segments popped up questioning his shift to the right, as if refusing to parrot talking points makes you a traitor. But viewers saw through it. They always do. Ratings dipped further, social media backlash grew louder, and clips of Maher's confrontation went viral, not because people agreed with every word he said, but because they recognized honesty when they heard it. It's been missing from journalism for too long. Even longtime CNN viewers admitted they were shocked. One comment under the viral clip said it best. When the guy who used to mock conservatives starts sounding more reasonable than the anchors, something's seriously wrong. Exactly. That's where we are now. The public has lost faith. They no longer trust CNN's motives. They don't believe MSNBC's fact checks. They roll their eyes when anonymous sources conveniently back every Democrat narrative. And that's dangerous, not just for the media, but for democracy itself. Because without trusted journalism, truth becomes subjective. Every story becomes propaganda. Every disagreement becomes a war of belief systems. That's the world CNN helped create. Bill Maher's message, though wrapped in sarcasm and humor, was deadly serious. If you keep treating half the country like enemies, you'll destroy what's left of national unity, and he's right. CNN's obsession with Trump, and now with anyone who challenges their narrative, has backfired spectacularly. It hasn't weakened Trump, it's strengthened him. It hasn't enlightened viewers, it's radicalized them. The more the network pushes fear, the more people tune out or turn elsewhere. And that's why independent journalism is thriving. People are done being lectured by elites who think dissent equals misinformation. Look at what's happening online. Creators, commentators, and citizen journalists are filling the void that mainstream media abandoned. They're imperfect, yes, but they're real. They speak without scripts, without handlers, and without fear of losing network approval. That's the new age Maher unintentionally champions. One where honesty beats hierarchy, and authenticity beats agenda. And yet, instead of learning, CNN is still swinging its shovel, digging deeper, refusing to admit its mistakes. They're too invested in the illusion of authority to confront the reality of failure. As Maher quipped in his final words on the topic, CNN's problem isn't Trump, it's CNN, a devastating line. Because it's true. The network that once claimed to be the most trusted name in news is now a punchline, mocked by the left, distrusted by the right, and abandoned by the middle. That's what happens when a brand forgets its purpose. And as Maher said, if you want people to believe you again, stop acting like politicians in suits. It's advice CNN won't take, because self-reflection doesn't drive ratings. Outrage does. But here's the twist. Even outrage has an expiration date. People eventually tune out. And they are, in record numbers. The once dominant network that set the global news agenda now trails behind podcasts and YouTube channels run from spare bedrooms. That's not just irony. That's poetic justice. Because when you spend years deceiving your audience, eventually your audience disappears. Bill Maher. Megyn Kelly, Ben Shapiro, and countless others aren't CNN's enemies. They're its wake-up call. They're the mirror CNN refuses to look into. And unless something changes, unless the network remembers what journalism used to mean, fairness, curiosity, truth, it will keep sliding into irrelevance. The saddest part? The people inside CNN know this. They just don't know how to stop. The outrage machine they built now controls them. Maher's closing message summed it up perfectly. The media is supposed to be a watchdog, not a weapon. But when the watchdog starts attacking its own neighbors, everyone stops listening. That line resonated across political lines. Because deep down, people don't want propaganda. They want honesty. They want balance. They want someone to tell the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And for all his flaws, Maher did exactly that. He didn't defend Trump out of loyalty. He defended fairness out of principle. That's what real journalism and real free speech looks like. So the next time CNN runs another fact-check segment about Trump or another sanctimonious lecture about democracy, remember this moment. Remember who finally had the courage to say what millions were thinking. Bill Maher didn't destroy CNN. CNN destroyed itself. He just turned on the lights so everyone could see, and that's why this story matters. Not because it's political, but because it's a turning point. A sign that even within the media's own ranks, the truth is finally breaking through the noise. So if you're tired of the spin, the double standards and the endless theatrics, you're not alone. Stay tuned. Stay curious, and most importantly, stay skeptical. Because the truth isn't hiding on your television. It's waiting to be found by those who refuse to be fooled.